Hello and welcome to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy,
And I'm Claire.
and we're here to talk about some of the disturbing things that go on in the world, past and present. We feel like not knowing doesn't mean the crazy doesn't exist.
So we're going to scar you with the knowing.
Enjoy.
James Tylka. Tylka.
I wonder how many times his name's been mispronounced.
Okay. So James Tylka will kill his estranged wife and shoot a cop. I don't feel like there's a lot of triggers. Well, I never feel like there's triggers. Anyway, now we're going to talk a little bit about James. He was an unpaid cadet with the police for 2 years in 2004 to 2006 as part...
I didn't know that cadets weren't paid.
So it's part of a scheme run for teens with an interest in law enforcement. So I was going to say that I did that my senior year. That it's just like I feel like it's an outreach program is what it is. That you've got an interest, but I mean, it lets you dabble in doing some things. That way it's kind of a step, or kind of like ROTC is before you go into the military, like a stepping stone to your career. But I
thought you were talking about like the grown adult men folk that go to the police academy and he's doing an internship with the police department. I was like, if that's how they do it, that could explain a lot of the police brutality situations we have.
No. But he is under 21 during that chunk, and no one knows why he left that program.
Because he wasn't paid.
That was actually good. Why
do we know his IQ?
Because
it's entirely possible that he done thought that police folk don't get paid. Like, fuck this shit. I'm out.
Anyway, so cadets are allowed to shadow officers and help with office work, but they can't take part in active duty or carry a firearm, stuff like that. Now, James will meet a gal named Caitlin Armand while they're both working for a phone company in 2012. Now, they end up getting head over heels for each other and getting married. They get hitched in December 2014. She's 22 at this point, and he's 28. Now, James and Caitlin's relationship was far from a good one. There would be a history of domestic violence, which is backed up with police investigations. So just all around went south.
Jeez. They don't have kids, do they? At that point, when they're getting the police all involved, do they have kids yet?
They do not.
That's good.
Now, in January 2015, Caitlin will have a miscarriage. And by the end of 2015, James and Caitlin are separated, but agree to stay in touch for the sake of their soon-to-be baby, because she's pregnant again. Now, they're separated before their daughter, Bryn, is born in January 2016.
Good Lord.
Now, Caitlin will hold on to the hope that James would get himself together and that they could one day be a family together. And James would fall down a path of substance abuse and depression. So they're living separately. But, I mean, I can understand not wanting that around your future child.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Now, James and Caitlin will go back and forth in court over custody of their child and his support payments. And by September 2016, Caitlin will file for immediate temporary custody of their child, saying he was at risk of abuse, or that the baby was at risk of abuse, and that she had agreed earlier in the year to joint custody, but her former partner had become increasingly irrational and aggressive. Now, Caitlin had also stated that when she had picked up her crying child from James's home and asked her what's wrong, she was told that Daddy had yelled and demanded to know what Mommy was doing. Naturally, this prompted a call to the police.
How old is this kid that she's talking full sentences? I feel like she just had it.
Well,
no wonder it was crying. It can't do the word in it.
I don't know, Andrea. I totally didn't catch that one.
If you tell me she's like under 4, I'm just gonna laugh.
No, I'm sitting here just like, the fuck, this doesn't make any sense.
He's expecting a newborn to talk. He's like, "What has your mom been doing?" And the baby's just like, "Wah."
He had a child with someone else.
Well, how old was that kid? You have any idea?
The kid was
Because
8.
Oh.
Well, anyway, one of the times that Caitlin goes to pick up her child from James's home, he's like in a crazed state and is threatening suicide, so she calls the police. But she also doesn't think that they need to share custody because if he's not mentally stable, she doesn't want to leave her baby around that.
That's understandable. So the way I interpret the little bit that I done understood that you just got done telling me is that perhaps during a child exchange of the baby was crying and he was demanding to know from his ex what she's been up to, and she's busy trying to deal with the crying baby, and he would not let her deal with the crying baby unless does that make sense? Like holding the baby hostage type situation, not hostage, but like,
Yeah.
if you want to deal with the baby, you got to tell me what you've been up to. Yeah. Which is how I would interpret that.
Now, that's in September. By November the 29th, Caitlin will call 911 to report death threats that James had made to her about killing her and her new boyfriend. James is not arrested for those threats.
Why? Because she couldn't prove them?
Probably not. But I feel like he got to figuring out what mommy was up to. But you know what? If you go your separate ways, it's none of the other person's business what you're doing.
No, it's not.
Or who. Now, the following day, James will attempt suicide by overdosing on insulin. Now, instead, he's taken to Legacy Meridian Park Hospital, where officers request a mental health hold. Instead of holding him, the doctors release him later that night, stating that it sounds like a criminal matter.
What?
Mm-hmm. Now, the weeks leading up to Caitlin's death, there are hundreds of text messages exchanged between James and Caitlin that alternate between him begging her to take him back and him threatening to kill her.
Wow.
Which brings us to the afternoon of Christmas Eve. James goes to a private gun dealer in Portland and purchases a 9mm Springfield handgun. Just so you know, Andrea, it's one of the ones that could do some damage.
Good to know. So it's one of them there big bullets?
Well,
or medium-sized bullets?
Moderately sized. If you know how we've had like the cases where you take a 22 to the head and some of the people live, some of them don't. But you take a 9mm to the head, I haven't heard of anybody coming back from that. But anyway, so he purchases a 9mm handgun. And then he goes to a sporting goods store and purchases earplugs and ammo. Now, Christmas morning rolls around. He wakes up and decides to change his Facebook profile picture to one of him and Caitlin on their wedding day.
That's not weird.
Right? I was like, this feller clearly needed some help. Caitlin was scheduled to work late that night. She was a medical technician at an Oregon senior living center. So she drives to James' home where he lives with his mother and stepfather to drop off their daughter, Bryn. Now, it's roughly 10 p.m. when she goes to drop Bryn off. Now, James...
That's late.
Well, she works
to do a drop-off? So. Well, but still, that's late to have a baby out.
Anyway, James goes out to the car, unbuckles Bryn from... she's in her car seat, but he unbuckles her to, take the carrier out. Sets her in the entryway of the home, still in the car seat. She's 11 months old at this time. Now, James had previously been married and had an 8-year-old son who's also in the house. I would imagine he's asleep. Well, it's Christmas.
Well, definitely I would hope, because you got to put all them there presents out.
I think you do that Christmas Eve.
Then you got to put all them there presents away.
No, he walks back out to the car, takes out his gun, and shoots Caitlin 8 times. 6 times in the chest and twice in the head. Now, James's mother hears the shots and goes running outside to see what happens. Now, neighbors also hear those shots and call the police. And at this point, when James' mom comes running outside, James had gotten into Caitlin's car and was sitting with the engine running. Now, his mom taps on the window, but James drives off without responding. He calls his
How?
mom. Hold up. I know you've got the same questions. I'm getting there. He calls his mom a few minutes later, wanting to know if Caitlin was dead, saying, "I shot her, Mom. I shot her. She screwed up my life. My whole life's been screwed up, and I shot her, and I'm going to kill myself."
First of all, I feel like he's the one screwing up his life.
Mm-hmm. So James then called one of Caitlin's friends at 10:20 and told her what he just did. Then he sent a text to Caitlin's sister Megan that said, "I killed your sister" at 10:48.
What the fuck?
I know, right? Now, when officers get to the scene of where the reports of gunfire were, which James is home, they find the body of Caitlin laying in the street. I assume that was your question of how he got into her car, whether he was driving around with her body.
Well, it wasn't whether or not he's driving around with her body. My question, because especially if he asked his mom if he killed her, was so he shot her in the front seat and then yanked her
Chunked her,
body out?
evidently.
Wow, he's a good feller.
Well, that's a lot of times for somebody to be shot and then you just chunk their body in the. Like, I don't know. Now, dispatchers broadcast what's called an attempt to locate for James, who is suspected of killing his wife at this point. Now, somewhere in the mix, dispatchers fail to pass along that James is armed, dangerous, and suicidal. 9 minutes after
Great.
9 minutes after the broadcast went out, an officer on duty, State Trooper Nick Cedarberg, spots the car and flicks his lights. And James flees, which makes the officer pursue.
So he runs from the cops, right?
Uh-huh.
I'm assuming that the police officer calls it in that he's got him, like found him, located him, and he's fleeing the scene, correct?
Uh-huh.
At that point, it didn't dawn on anybody to tell the officer to be careful because the guy is armed and suicidal. Like, they still didn't throw that one out there?
Apparently not.
That's
Now,
really messed up.
James mistakenly pulls down a narrow, dark, dead-end road with Trooper Cedarberg not far behind.
Good. He needs to get caught.
So James turns his car around and heads straight out at Trooper Cedarberg's vehicle, who is stopped, and starts firing at this point since he's coming straight at his cruiser. He runs into the front corner of his cruiser, which stops this chase. Now, Trooper Cedarberg is hit and immediately calls that he's down and needs help. Meanwhile, James is still firing. Like, the trooper is down. He's not firing back at all. Because from my understanding, he was hit in the arm. So it's like one of those...
It hurts, but it's not fatal.
Well, yeah. So he's down, but I don't think he can shoot back at this point. So he's not a threat to the officer anymore. But James is still
You
firing.
mean to James?
Yeah, he's not a threat to James, but James is still firing and hits Trooper Cedarberg more. Now, the trooper is down, and you can see on the dash cam that James gets out of his car. They're like right hood to hood. So he walks around the back end of his car and shoots the trooper several more times from over top of him. Like, you know, the scene of where the cops will open the door and fire shots from that little crevice from once the door's open. So when he goes down, the officer's laying right there. So James leans over the top of the door. He doesn't go around the door because he, I guess, doesn't know that the officer's not firing or going to fire on him. But he just pulls his arm over that side of the window and just squeezes off several more rounds. But it's just one of those... It's crazy to hear how many shots go off after the trooper is down. But the fact that he walks up there and shoots several more times. Now, when his gun is empty, he picks up the trooper's gun and shoots him several more times.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Now, he takes that gun into the shrubs because naturally his vehicle's crunched. But responding officers try to make sense of the scene, quickly assessing safety before rushing into an unknown situation because they just know an officer's down. That's it. Now, keep in mind, it's at night. The lights are flashing. Everyone's trying to figure out what's happening. And in a frenzy of lights and noise and confusion, they don't know Trooper Cedarberg's condition is.
Oh, he's dead,
They don't,
right?
I'm telling you, they don't know. So they're coming up on the situation because they just know officer down. Now, or they heard him call out that he needs help, which I can only imagine being a police officer and hearing that. But anyway, I'm just trying to paint you the picture of they don't know, lights, noise, confusion. There's all sorts of people responding to this. Now, then that's what the situation is when they get there. Again, body cam footage when they're trying to suss out the situation. On the body cam of one of the police officers, they catch a glimpse of a person's face in the nearby brush. And it's fortunate that they did that because I think James was laying in wait to shoot some more police officers.
Oh my gosh.
Another gun battle ensues, this time 5 police officers versus James. Now, this gun battle does end with James Tylka being shot to death. Now, of the 21 gunshots that hit James, 1 was self-inflicted to his head.
What?
Yeah, he killed himself. So my guess would be when he was shot. Again, the dash cam footage and the body cam footage, I'll post the link because it's crazy to watch this. You don't see him get shot, but it's like 5 officers emptying rounds. So it's just like he deserved to be killed. Piece of shit. So James is dead. I mean, he probably would have died regardless, but he punched his own ticket. Now, the officers then rushed to Trooper Cedarberg's aid, who by this point, he's still alive.
Oh my gosh. Because he had a vest on?
No.
Oh.
Rush over there, they cut off your clothes, all that, get an assessment of where is the blood coming from. But one officer said he had holes everywhere. He was shot 12 times. He was not dead, so they got to work on trying to save him. Now, meanwhile, we'll pause.
Where was he shot? Well, I know you said he got shot once in the arm, so we'll say he's got 11 more. Where all was he shot that he's still alive?
Everywhere, Andrea. His chest, but pretty much everywhere. Fortunately, not his head. But now we'll put a pin in that. They're trying to save him, right? Meanwhile, Trooper Cedarberg's wife, Haley Shelton, is a Portland police officer who's also on duty and is working. God. She's working in another office. No, you're going to get me choked up on this one.
Wait. This is my chance to tell you. Pull it together, Claire.
I'm like mentally replaying the body cam footage. So it's just like for all that to happen. And she's just working like normal. She was doing whatever paperwork she was doing when another officer walks up to her and just does the whole, hey, did you hear about that police shooting that just happened with the state trooper?
Oh, gosh.
Now, she's a Portland police officer. He was a state trooper, so they don't work in the same office or anything, but obviously it's still a fellow police officer.
Right.
But she pauses and is like, no, I haven't heard anything. And then begins to consider, well, hey, I'm married to a trooper. So she calls her husband and it goes to voicemail. So she calls again. It just keeps ringing and going straight to voicemail. So she left a gut-wrenching voicemail begging him to answer his phone and to be alive. Now, the more time that passes, the more she gets that sick feeling of she knows it's him. He always answers. He wouldn't, I mean, even if he was busy, he'd at least respond back in some way. At the same time, she's having those horrible feelings. She gets a call from her sergeant who confirms that it was Nick who had been shot several times. And she actually beats the ambulance to the hospital.
Holy shit.
I was like, if her car had wings, that's the only thing I can imagine. But at the same time, she was there when they unloaded him out of the ambulance and saw how bad he was. She probably did not need to see that.
And also, I wonder how long from the point of they're assessing his injuries to notifying her to getting to the hospital. Because you know how, like, if he's touch and go, if they think there's a chance they can help him, that they'll try to help him at the scene to like stabilize him before they move him. So that might have been what gave her the opportunity to get there.
But when they open the ambulance doors, she'll see all the holes in his body and blood everywhere. Obviously, she can't go into surgery, and he is rushed into the operating room. And I feel so bad for people who are in situations like this because the time has got to stretch on for hours. I mean, obviously, he was in surgery for hours, but the seconds are hours.
That's awful.
Now at this point, police are like back at the scene of trying to figure out what the hell has happened. They've got Caitlin's body, now James's body. What the hell is going on? Now, when police search Caitlin's car that James had taken off in, they find a restraining order petition that Caitlin had filled out but not submitted yet.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. There were also cards from James to Caitlin. One was an anniversary card that he had written, "I'm sorry for what I'm about to do." Now, good news. Trooper Cedarberg survives.
Oh, shit.
I know.
You're an asshole. You are such an asshole. You're like saying you're going to get emotional and stuff. It's like, I get it. If you don't know, because you had me sitting here trying to doodle to not get emotional with you because that's super fucked up. But he lives. It's more like a woohoo, yay, go you. He's a fighter. Holy shit. Are you sure he wasn't wearing a vest?
He was not wearing a vest. Now, when Nick wakes up, his wife is by his side. He gives her a weak high five and tells her he loves her.
Aww.
Now, he would spend 48 days in the hospital before being released and would have nightmares for months after getting home.
Now, no shit.
Nick would have permanent disabilities as a result of the shooting, including PTSD. At least one bullet remains at the base of his spine, and bullet fragments are left in his forearm where he was shot 6 times.
Oh my gosh.
Now, 6 months after being released from the hospital, Trooper Cedarberg is given the National Trooper of the Year award. Now, him and his wife attempt to sue the hospital for claiming that James Tylka should not have been released from the hospital the day before all this shit happened because police had requested a mental health hold.
Yeah.
The case was dismissed because the judge ruled that it was not reasonable to conclude that James Tylka's actions would have changed by the hospital holding him. I strongly disagree with. Here's a thought. Maybe if they held him and figured out what the fuck was wrong with him, then they could have prevented all of this. But they didn't even try.
Well, and the fact that they can almost technically, I'm guessing, prove, especially if his ex was getting ready to file a restraining order, that he is a danger to not only himself but others.
Now, they will also try to sue the Washington County 911 Center and the Sheriff's Office, but that too is dismissed because the judge said that the dispatcher didn't omit information intentionally. Now, Trooper Cedarberg argued that he would have responded differently had he been provided complete details. Like, he would have tailed the guy. I mean, there's so many other ways for this to go rather than him to go into that scenario by himself.
Yeah, he was robbed.
Yeah. Now, the sheriff's office was named in the lawsuit also because they failed to arrest Tylka, or James, the month prior on that domestic violence charge. Now, that was only a month prior to him killing Caitlin. So it's just like everybody dropped the ball on this one, and I'm glad that he lived. However, you've got now this little baby girl who has neither one of her parents.
Yeah, that's awful. Do you know what happened to her?
No. I would assume grandparents have her.
Well, I'd be curious if it was his parents or her parents.
I don't know.
Not that it really matters. And I know he died, but it was at the hands of himself versus her parents who lost their daughter because of him.
No, not that it matters because I feel like it was a legitimate shooting anyway, but I kind of find it suspicious that they're like, he killed himself. He was shot 21 times, Andrea.
Yeah, that's but I'd be curious to see his autopsy. Like, which bullet was the fatal one? Without, Like, were any of those other bullets fatal? Because did they stand over him and just shoot him after he was already down because they were mad?
Well, we've got 5 officers and they're just emptying into his ass. So
yeah, but if he shot him, okay, let's go with 2 different theories here. They loaded him full of bullets, and then they were like, the fatal bullet was the one he gave himself. Whatever. Or did they find him? Did they see him standing there? He shot himself in the head as they opened fired on him, and it was like a all at once kind of thing.
So it was like so he was in the bushes on the other side of the road. They pull up and they're like on the other side of the road. So if he's on the left hand in the ditch in the shrubbery, there's not that much space in between them. I'd say about 15, 20 feet. That's why he got hit so many times. And he's only in like grass shrubbery. So it's not like he's behind a tree.
Interesting.
But the dash cam watching it is pretty crazy because you see his face light up in the lights, just because, spoiler alert, I guess, that he's white. So the light just shines his face right up. But you see it because, like, on the like, it's just fortunate that the officer caught it too, because if they would have kept going, but it's just sick that he was going to sit there and watch. But I'm going to play you the video snippet. Now, this is going to be when, right after the James runs into Trooper Cedarberg's patrol car and the shooting. And then just keep in mind that it stops briefly when he's down, and then James will walk around the backside of the car, and then the rest of the shots are him. And then there's another break in the firing, and then the last couple shots, because that's when he picks up the trooper's gun and shoots him with that. But here we go.
1832, about 35 miles an hour. Not sure what he's going to do here. He's going to be going into the dead end here. I'm going to slow down here. He's about 15 miles an hour. Go ahead and notify a supervisor. I've been shot! I'm down.
So at this point, the trooper is down. The next shots that you're going to hear are from James. There's a pause when the bullets stop, when James picks up the trooper's gun and fires with the trooper's gun the final shot. The next clip is when responding officers spot James in the woods, and then the gunfire that goes on, or that's exchanged then. Now, keep in mind, this is at night, and it's chaotic, so I think this gun battle goes on as long as it does, because you can't figure out who's firing. He's in the brush, and there are 6 people shooting guns, so it's chaotic, it's a short amount of time, and that's why he gets shot so many times.
Someone needs that car. Someone hits that car hard. I've got the car.
Hey, let's go. Somebody watch my left side up here.
Got your left.
Can you see in the car?
Got your left.
I can. Nobody. I can't see. Hey, get that shield. Get that shield up and be ready.
Be ready. I need someone on my right over here.
Okay, hold on. It's all right. Deep breath, everybody.
Okay. Someone got the woods? I got the woods.
Okay, I'm taking off. I'm going to drag him
I
out.
got the woods.
Hey, he's right
Stand
here.
there!
Right there.
Stand right there! Right behind you, right behind you. Get behind the car, get behind the car. Guys, he's moving. Moving. We got cover on him. I got cover.
That was the 21 gunshots that killed him.
Holy shit.
Did you hear that? That's why I don't know how it comes across. But
That was like 3 seconds of just...
Five officer emptying their rounds into where the shrubbery is. I was like, Jesus.
Jeez.
It's in total a 7-minute little snippet thing that he should watch.
Wow. That's crazy. I'm glad he's dead.
For all the officers out there that put their lives at risk, I'm glad that he lived, but like, if you watch that video, I don't know how you can not get choked up. My head kind of went to the whole, when I was trying to get a hold of you that one day. So it's like,
you mean when I set my face on fire?
Yes, when you set your face on fire and everybody let me know that you were injured, and I'm just like, just text me, please text me. Please tell me our family is just over-exaggerating this. Just text me. Be alive, okay? Like,
I was probably done dead.
And to be on the other side of, you can't do anything, you don't have answers, and it's just, I mean, not saying on the other end being the injured one is fun either, but
I can tell you it's not.
But I did think it was crazy that his court or his lawsuits were thrown out, but I kind of understand that everybody sues everybody over everything, but at the same time, he really died because of people not doing their job.
Now, if he was trying to sue whoever sold him the gun, that's suing over nothing, okay? Because that is what it is. But the dispatcher dropped the ball. Like, there's so many, the hospital that didn't hold him on the request. I didn't realize hospitals could be like, no, we don't have to listen to the police officers that are requesting this hold. I didn't even know that was a thing.
With that one, I feel like whichever officer tried to bring him in and do that, there had to have been somebody having a bad day that they were like, no, sounds like this is a police matter. How the fuck does it sound like a police officer? Do I look like a doctor? I mean, we're asking for a mental health hold. We don't do
I wonder if
the jails.
I wonder if the officer that dropped him off didn't fill out the paperwork.
Yeah.
And was just like, he needs to be held for a mental health evaluation, but didn't do their side of the police paperwork. And that's why the doctor was like, no, this is a police matter because you didn't fill out your paperwork.
Yeah. Some sort of pissing match happened there. Or maybe it's because it was near Christmas, so they were trying to pull everybody stressed around the holidays. Let him go home.
I feel bad for him. I'm glad he survived, though, for him and his family.
Yeah. I'm sure he's gone into a dark place mentally. But I hope he has years of lots of happy.
Yeah, but I was going to say, I just hope he's able to move past it enough to enjoy the days that he has with his significant others.
Now, I will say, I kind of rolled my eyes at him getting Trooper of the Year because it's like, you guys nearly got him killed. But
we were like, the least we can do is give him an award.
Like, Trooper of the Year. Not to say that people don't, I mean, the award, I get, is an important thing. I just think in all the things he just endured, let's give him an award.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid.
I think the city could have coughed up a couple million for somebody they done. You really have to watch the whole video.
Well, we can include the link on our Facebook page. Do you have much more left of this case?
What else is left? He's dead. Everybody's dead.
I wasn't sure if there was some kind of surprise ending.
And also, he was wearing a vest. I misread their notes and all that mumbo jumbo.
I done figured. I asked. That's why I asked. It didn't make no sense to me. I know nothing about guns, but I know lots of bullets in your body holes makes
your body holes.
Yes,
the fucking true. But no. So think about with like all the little gangbangers that get shot up. They can get shot up a ton and still live, and they're not wearing a bulletproof vest. But anyhow,
He got shot.
He was wearing a vest.
I figured as much.
Anyway,
I'm glad he survived. Good job wearing your vest. Officers need to wear their vest.
Yeah.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode of Homicide Hobbies. If we made you laugh, if we made you cry, or if we mind-fucked you for the day, then we thank you for listening. Please write a review on whatever you're listening to us on. Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your coworkers. We're freaking awesome. And join us next week for another episode of Homicide Hobbies. I'm Andy.
And I'm Claire.
That's all we've got.